Alright, episode 11 of Bidare Ball. Today we are going to do a review of the first round of the NBA playoffs, except for the Mavs and Clippers. I am going to talk about it, but that one's not done yet, so we'll see on Game 7. But I just wanted to upload this before the Brooklyn Bucks game. So, I'm just going to start with the least memorable or least interesting series first. Get those out of the way, then I'll actually talk about the real stuff. That's the ones that were unpredictable, I guess. So first one is Utah and Memphis. That one was done in 5. The Jazz won, and to be honest, that one was pretty easy to me, just because the Jazz have one glaring weakness, which is Gobert switching on pick and rolls. And honestly, the Grizzlies, from the moment they beat the Warriors, I was like, okay, this is a done deal, because they don't have anybody who's going to exploit that weakness to the full extent of it. Ja is brilliant, and he was killing them on the floaters when Gobert was in drop coverage, but he's not exactly going to punish you from 3. And if you're not going to do that, then you're just going to lose the math battle, because Utah just take 3 after 3 after 3, and they just make all those goddamn shots. So ultimately, that one was pretty easy to me. It was obvious that they were. The first game, Memphis won just because Donovan Mitchell wasn't there. But as soon as he came back, it was a wrap. There was no chance that they would win another game. I wanted to talk about a little bit. I'm going to talk about a little bit of other stuff around this series. So let's first of all, in the Memphis side, I love how they draft. I love how they run as an organization. They realized, okay, we got Jaren Jackson Jr. and we got John Morant. We have our 2 cornerstones. We have our 2 blue chippers, the guys that we think can become all-stars. We already have those guys. Now, there's no need to continue trying to get projects or take a chance here, take a chance there. Let's go get guys that are immediately ready to contribute. The way they draft Desmond Bane, who's immediately ready to contribute, Xavier Tillman, Brandon Clark, and even they got trades for guys like D'Anthony Melton, who was a young guy floundering for Phoenix. He comes in, he's instant impact. Same thing with Grayson Allen from the 3. Just really nice way. I just love the way they've built their squads, and getting Jonas Valanciunas and Kyle Anderson, all these guys, just a lot of veteran players that just do their job, and they surrounded their 2 cornerstones with those guys. And it's they're a franchise I trust. I don't think they have the talent currently to win anything, but they're an organization that's run in a way that I trust, that they'll make the right moves to make to put their team in a competitive position. For the Jazz, I just think, after what I saw from the Mavs and the Clippers, I just think they're the favorites to go no matter who wins that series. I just think the Jazz are the favorites, just because both the Mavs and the Clippers just give up so many threes, and the Jazz just make their goddamn shots, and there's just so much shot making in that team. That's granted if Mike Conley's playing, by the way. But if Mike Conley's playing, I just don't see how any of these teams beat them, because you could tell me, if the Clippers win, right? You could tell me, yes, the Clippers might have 2 of the 3 best players in the series, right? You're probably right if you say that, but the Clippers got taken to Game 7 with Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber, Porzingis, and Jalen Brunson taking 3s. That's ultimately those kind of guys, with obviously Luke and Hardaway being the main guys, but those role players are the ones that are. Those role players are enough to take them to Game 7. So replace those guys with Bogdanovich, Conley, Ingles, and Clarkson. Just those, that 4 for that 4. That alone, to me, makes it just how are you going to beat that? If the Clippers haven't been able to handle the Mavs, I don't know how they would be able to handle the Jazz. So to me, they're the favorites to in that series, regardless of who wins. All right, second series is unfortunately the Wizards and the Sixers. Another 5-game series. The Wizards weren't able to win. They were down 3-0. They weren't able to win in Game 5, even though Embiid had gotten down with a torn meniscus. Their best player went down, and we still weren't able to even compete in the fucking 5th game. Embarrassing. And I mean, if that's not the last straw for Scott Brooks, I just don't know what is. And this goddamn Fuck you, Russell Westbrook. This guy's coming out in the media. He's like, oh, Scott Brooks, he's our guy. He's my coach. All this kind of crap, man. If he wants Scott Brooks back, he go with him, man. Fuck him and fuck Scott Brooks. After that shit fucking series, if you really wanted to keep his job, how about you play better, you piece of shit? God damn it, man. Fuck Scott Brooks. We need to get him out. And it's not even a question. If I am telling you this right now, I watched so much goddamn Wizards, even when they sucked. Worse than they suck right now. But even when they sucked, even worse than this, I still watched. But if Scott Brooks is my coach next year, there's not a chance. You couldn't pay me enough money to watch again. There's no chance. If he's the coach, I'm not watching. For the Sixers, they did what they had to do, even with Embiid. And I think they showed me enough that I'm like, okay, they're going to fucking they're just going to destroy the Hawks. Not destroy them, but they will win. I mean, just the stuff that Trae Young got against the Knicks, he will simply not get against Ben Simmons. It's just not happening. I'm sorry. Ben Simmons will engulf him. He will swallow Trae Young. All that stuff that coming off the pick and roll, whatever, that's cute when Derrick Rose is the one running after the pick and roll. But when it's a 6'10" fucking giant running after the pick and roll, and he's more athletic than you, and he's taller than you, and he's smarter than you, I don't know what you could do, honestly. I mean, the things he was doing against Russell Westbrook, I get it. He doesn't have the shot, but still, just the physicality of Westbrook's play and the way he was able to contain it, I don't know what Trae Young's going to be able to do against that. John Collins, I've seen a little bit about John Collins plays really well against the Sixers. Okay, man, that's not the playoffs. And Tobias Harris showed me a lot in that series. So in the series against the Wizards. So I think that's just I have the Sixers in 5, max 6, to be honest. Next we got Brooklyn and Boston. This one also went 5. Thanks to Jason Tatum just fucking being unbelievable in Game 3, I think. And honestly, on the court, not much was really learned in this one. I mean, the big three are amazing. They all scored unbelievably and just so efficiently. Okay, we knew that one. And their weakness is obviously the offensive boards. They were just killed on the glass by Tristan Thompson. So just imagine what a better opponent the Bucks are gonna do to them. But most of the stuff, honestly, surrounding the series was off the court. So there's obviously all the Kyrie stuff. The Bulls. Okay, first of all, the water bottle. That one is. I don't even know what to say. That one's obvious, right? What a fucking embarrassment. These fans have just been ridiculous, honestly. And I'm telling you, man, Malice of the Palace 2.0, man. Just fucking. It's the same thing that happened with Russell Westbrook with the popcorn, dude. I'm telling you this right now. All you gotta do is bring that fan right down the center court. Don't kick him out. Bring him right down the center court like he's about to take a jump ball, okay? And let him just stand. Just stand face to face with Russell Westbrook, okay? Just let him stand face to face with Russell Westbrook, okay? He would shit himself on live TV. He would cry on live TV, and then we wouldn't have this issue. And if he actually had the balls to ever do anything, to try anything at Russell Westbrook would simply kill him on national TV, and then we'd be done with all this shit. The whole leprechaun thing, Kyrie stepped on the leprechaun. The way people talked about it, especially Kevin Garnett, fuck you, man. You whiny ass piece of shit. Of all people to talk that shit, is Kevin Garnett. And the way these people were talking about it honestly felt like there was a guy in a leprechaun costume, one of those actual live mascots that Kyrie was stepping on, instead of a parquet floor, you fucking weirdos. What the hell was all that about? So there's that, and then Danny Ainge gets fired or resigned or whatever. And then Brad Stevens gets promoted to his position because he was tired or whatever the fuck his excuse was. At the point, tired of coaching or exhausted or whatever. Okay. So there was a lot said about that one. So I wanted to talk about it. Yes, absolutely, unequivocally, it's white privilege. It's not even a little bit of a question. There's no question in my mind. As soon as you see that, if you don't think that's white privilege, then I'm sorry, but you're uneducated. If that doesn't immediately cross your mind, to me, the biggest example is Dwayne Casey. Dwayne Casey got to a conference final. Dwayne Casey had way less elite talent than what's it called? He had way less elite talent than Brad Stevens ever got. And I'm not saying that I wanted Dwayne Casey to also get promoted, right? To director of basketball operations or whatever the title is role. I'm not saying he should have been. I think he should have been fired too, and I'm not even saying Brad Stevens should have been fired. But to get a promotion, to me, here's the thing. Okay, you get stuck in a way where it's like, It's not that I don't want Brad Stevens to get this opportunity. It's that I find it disgusting that only he would get this opportunity and not a black coach in his same position. That's the issue here. It's not, and the way some people talked about it online, it's like, well, Brad Stevens has no right to get this job. It's like, that's true because of the context, but the ultimate goal is not for us to like dissuade teams from giving a guy like Brad Stevens that role, because he has proven he's a great coach. We want that same opportunity applied to black coaches, and it just isn't. That's the issue here. And then once you obviously identify that it's white privilege, then you get the whole other fucking like next level shit where it's everybody's going like, he failed upwards. It's like, okay, man, he did not fail. Okay, everybody's like, oh well, he didn't win a championship. That's failure. Well, that's just a stupid mentality. And it's like, dude, only one team wins the championship, and in the NBA, it's basically like only 5 teams realistically ever have the slightest chance of winning a championship. And at no point in Brad Stevens' time on Boston did he ever have a team that was even remotely close to a title winner. So that, to me, that part was stupid. But yes, it's absolutely white privilege, and there's like no question about it. All right, then we have Denver and Portland. That was a 6-game series. Denver won, of course. Just unbelievable, man. Just unbelievable what Jokic was able to do without his 2 starting guards and Will Barton and Jamal Murray. MVP, obviously. And he elevated on an MVP season. Like, that's just insane. Like, he had, let me see this, 33, 11 on 5 on 50, 40, 90. Like, just fucking obscene. Like, it's out of this world, honestly. And just, he's the best big in the league by far. Like, the way he handles double teams, to me, is just like, it's so far and away better than everybody else that I can't really compare it to anybody else. Every playoff game, every playoff series, he puts himself in another tier. He keeps going up and up and up. And honestly, I do have to credit, by the way, Austin Rivers, man. Austin Rivers gave them a hell of a lot. He made like 50% of his threes in the series. Just insane. And they needed every last bit of it. So honestly, like, and he defended the hell out of CJ McCollum. Like, there was just, once they switched Aaron Gordon on Dame and had Austin Rivers and CJ McCollum, like, that was the winning formula, basically, defensively. And I was just so impressed by those two. They really carried their load. Michael Porter Jr. obviously continues to improve, continues to shoot the lights out because he's just fucking unbelievable. And yeah, that team, they now face Phoenix, who we'll talk about in a second. I have no fucking idea what to even pick in that series. As for Portland, changes have already happened. Changes have already begun. Terry Stotts was fired. And there's all this talk about Dame leaving. I personally don't see it. I mean, if he hasn't left any of the 50 other times, I don't know why he would leave now when there's actual change happening. To me, I mean, it's the most obvious one and everybody's talked about it, but like, you gotta explore the CJ McCollum for Ben Simmons trade. You'd obviously have to incentivize that because, but I just imagine, okay, Ben Simmons comes in, automatically you have one of the probably the premier perimeter defender. So that improves your backcourt defense like exponentially first. And then the creative burden is not all on Dame. So there's that. The size of the team increases. And you already have Norm Powell, who, if you choose to re-sign, he could slot into CJ's spot. I think it's the most obvious deal for both teams, because if Philly doesn't win, then they're going to have to fucking look around and be like, okay, like this Ben Simmons guy, he's not really progressing. But even without the progress of Ben Simmons' game, the things he actively excels at right now are exactly what Portland needs. So they're going to have to discuss that deal, honestly. All right, so for the 5th series, we got Hawks and Knicks. 5-game series, Hawks just steamrolled them, basically, to be honest. And, I mean, then it fundamentally came down to The Knicks had absolutely no answer to Trae Young in the pick and roll, and the Hawks just swarmed the living hell out of Julius Randle, and the Knicks just couldn't like cover the talent gap between them, and it was just insurmountable, to be honest. Trae Young showed a lot of people a lot of things. His floater game. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I hate parts of his game. Like, the foul baiting is annoying. I don't care what anyone says. Like, oh, Harden did it first. Like, yeah, we hate him too. But he's just like, as much as I don't like Trae Young, you can't ever deny his absolute, like, incredible elite talent. Like, when he comes off that pick and roll, and the Wizards played them back-to-back games late on in the season, and it was just like, okay, like, well, you can't do anything against this. He's just coming off the pick and roll and just floater. Like, you can't. There is nothing you can do. If you're gonna play drop coverage, there's absolutely nothing you can do against that. And honestly, he showed a lot. DeAndre Hunter just fucking defended his ass off. He showed a lot. Bogdanovic, what a cold, just unbelievable, man. It's always gonna be what if, honestly, with his career, is if the Bucks move had gone through, like, just unbelievable what that team would have been. I think they would have been the clear favorites against the Nets if they had Bogdanovic, but we'll talk about that in a second. As for the Knicks, they didn't have enough talent, just pure talent. They didn't have enough. Hawks were just sending like four guys at Randall every time he drives. I still believe in him, to be honest. Like, everybody's, like, obviously down on him, like, oh, don't pay him. I think all that's just nonsense. You gotta pay him. You pay him, and you don't have to pay him immediately because they still have a team option, so they're gonna explore him. And then I think next year he's gonna perform. He's gonna continue to perform. So next year you pay him. And to me, they need to bridge the talent gap, but I also would like them not to lose the defensive identity they have. They should target somebody like Dennis Schroeder, who's already been linked. Or Malcolm Brogdon, to me, like, guys that can create their own shot, they can influence the offense, but at the same time are still all NBA level, all defense level guys, like the all NBA defense guys. So I just don't think you want somebody who could score, but you also don't want somebody who's gonna compromise your, like, point of attack defense, like, just in your face. Like, if you have Dennis Schroeder to that team, if you added Malcolm Brogdon to that team, I think that's still just a little bit short of the talent gap, but it takes you a hell of a lot closer. Like, maybe that one goes to 7 or at least 6. But just like Alfred Payton, Reggie Bullock, Obi Toppin, even, like, he's just been so unimpressive. Like, all these kind of guys, you just need more. You need that extra thing to push you over the edge. All right, now to the actually interesting series. We got Phoenix and the Lakers. Unfortunately, it was marred by injuries, but I mean, it's LeBron, so it is ultimately one of the most important or most interesting series, at least. Injuries to Chris Paul, to LeBron before the series, injuries to AD during the series, just all this kind of stuff. It dampened it a little bit, but there was still stuff you could see where it's like, okay, we can extrapolate this to, like, how is it going to look in the future. DeAndre Ayton, I was completely wrong. I'm sorry. I had been saying some shit. I take it all back. I did not. And to me, it was never a question of talent, because I always thought he was an elite talent. Like, just the physicality he possesses, that's elite on its own. But the assertiveness, which people have told me he lacks sometimes in the regular season, but in this series he 1000% like had it. He was just like, every time he got the ball, he's like, fuck it, I'm going for it. I'm dunking. I'm defending. He was good defending in the post. He made all the right reads. He showed me a lot, to be honest. Like, I'm not gonna talk shit about him anymore. Still don't think it was the right pick, but he was a very good. He's a very good player, which means it wasn't that bad of a pick. Booker, like, like, at a certain point with all these, like, fucking analysis of, like, oh, well, he's on a bad team, so was he really, like, at a certain point, when a guy shows you who he is, believe him. Like, stop fucking taking it as a win and loss column and actually look at the player, see the skills, and like, analyze, and, like, does this guy's skill set translate to a better team? And a guy that can shoot well from the three, that can dominate from the mid-range, that can get to the rim, that can do all this kind of stuff. The answer was always yes. It was never in question. A guy that can put up 70 points a game is a winning player. Even if they lost that game, like, that's a winning player. The fact that you have that scoring ability, you impact winning. That's just a fact. He still has things to improve, of course, but what he did in that game 6 was just undeniable. Like, it was I have this. We are going through, and there's nobody that can stop anything that I'm doing. And ultimately, he was right. Like, they just couldn't handle what he was doing. The Lakers squad, it exposed this series exposed a lot of the thinness around the squad. They made some mistakes this offseason, like giving Montrezl Harrell, who every single fucking person in this entire league knew would not be able to play in the playoffs. Like, everybody was like, well, you only face Jokic once. Like, yeah, you don't need. This guy isn't just unplayable against Jokic. He's unplayable against DeAndre Ayton. He's unplayable against so many different matchups. Like, that guy cannot play in these series, so why would you waste your mid-level exception, $9 million on him? So that was a mistake. Generally, the squad is thin. They're going to have to re-sign Dennis Schroeder, and if they don't, and he isn't kind enough to deal with them with a sign and trade, then honestly, I have no idea what they do, because they're going to be incredibly cap-strapped, and just, I don't know what they do, honestly. They still have 2 elite players, one healthy. And honestly, I'm not even worried about LeBron's health, to be honest. I'm worried that the one healthy part is more about Davis, who just continuously just has a record of this. So, if they're both healthy and they come back with Schroeder and they maybe like improve a little bit around the margins, they'll still be my favorite next year. I mean, it's LeBron, man. I refuse to not believe in this guy until he shows me that I shouldn't. And on a hobbled ankle and without his co-star, that's not enough proof for me to like dismiss him. So he'll still probably be, the Lakers will still probably be my favorites if they're healthy going into next season. All right, now then we got my favorite series, the Bucks. This is my last NBA jersey, honestly. So I had the Nuggets one. I posted that on the first video. Then I have this Bucks jersey. And so next video, I don't know, I'm just fucking wearing any other sports jersey. So the point is, they cooked. They swept the Miami Heat, their boogie team, and I'm so glad that they didn't try to do the whole fucking Clippers route of trying to tank out of the series. Like, it is a mental thing. I said this after game 1. I said they played the exact same game in game 1 of this series that they played in every single game they lost last year against this same Miami Heat. Not the same exact Miami Heat team, but they lost to this Miami Heat team. They made the exact same mistakes in game 1. Duncan Robinson was shooting lights out. They were playing drop coverage. They made every single mistake that they had made the first year. And yet, they still won. And in their head, like, that win, seeing Middleton hit that game-winning shot, like, that was relief. Like, you could see them like, okay, we did every single thing wrong, right? And we still won. So they all looked like, it was obvious. You could honestly, I love the rationalizations after these games. Like, when you win a game that you played ass, everybody looks at each other like, okay, let's never fucking do that again. Like, we played terrible and we still won, which means if we slightly improve, we'll win the series, and that's basically what they did. Game 1 was basically just the exact same mistakes, but the only difference was Drew Holiday played instead of Eric Bledsoe. Like, that game was literally just the difference between Drew Holiday and Eric Bledsoe, plus the fact that Budenholzer finally got a fucking, like, his 2 brain cells connected. Finally, the messages reach each other, and finally he let Giannis actually guard the best player. Shocking, I know. The defensive player of the year, one of the best perimeter defenders in the entire league, guarding the best perimeter player on the other team. I mean, it's really shocking, truly, but it was so goddamn obvious. He finally let it, and he just gave Butler hell, man. He fucking dominated him all series. He didn't let Butler breathe at any point in the entire series. And that just gives me a lot of hope that Budenholzer is actually going to let him guard let Giannis guard Durant. Because I've been saying this. I said this my first ever video on this entire fucking channel when I did this on the Bucks, and I said months and months and months ago. This was before even the Harden trade. But I mean, that really didn't change that much defensive matchups. But just like Giannis is God's answer to KD. That's what I said at the time. I still say it now. Nobody is the combination of he's stronger than KD, he's faster than KD, and he might be longer than KD, right? All that combined, and by the way, that doesn't mean he's going to stop KD, because nobody stops KD. Like, KD's still going to get his numbers, but all you can do is, can I get him down from 70 or 60 to 70% efficiency to, like, can I get him down to 50? Can I maybe like 45? Can I affect him a little bit where he's, instead of being like the most efficient scorer ever, he's an efficient scorer. That's all you can do against guys like that. The other stuff that happened in this series, just Bryn Forbes, Bobby Portis, and PJ Tucker. The first two, honestly, I had so much skepticism about them when they signed them. I having seen Bobby Portis for the Wizards, just unbelievable. I was completely wrong. Incredible additions. Like, they really improved around the margins. And on a team that was cash strapped, and they signed Giannis to Supermax, and they re-signed Middleton a couple years ago, and they re-signed Jrue Holiday during the season, all this kind of stuff. On a team that cash strapped, to work that phenomenally around the margins, like, that's what makes them title contenders this year. Like, that's the kind of work that you really that wins you titles. That kind of stuff around the margins. As for Giannis, I'll say the one thing, Giannis didn't exactly shoot amazing in this series, but the one area that he significantly improved in was his playmaking. I mean, his assist to turnover ratio from last year was 2-1 in this same series, and this year was 3-1. Like, simply, they just could not. They tried to build the wall and everything, and it was still relatively effective in like stopping Giannis' scoring numbers. He wasn't as efficient as he usually is, so in that area they definitely did it. But his ability to play make after the fact was after he meets the wall was like significantly better than last year, and that was ultimately the real like crux of the series, because last year he was making the very easy direct pass that was getting what seemed to be a wide open shot until like playoff defenses, the way they close out, it ends up being a contested shot. Now he was finding the wide open shot, the truly wide open shot, to great three-point shooters instead of okay three-point shooters like Brook Lopez was shooting them last year, like DiVincenzo was shooting them last year. Like, now they were going to Bryn Forbes, now they were going to Bobby Portis, now they're going to Middleton, now they're going to Jrue Holiday. Like, now he was kicking out to wide open threes to great shooters. That was the difference between the two series. And finally, last but not least, we got the Clippers and the Mavs, which isn't done yet, so I'm just going to fucking like really skim through it real quick. I have no idea. It's been, honestly, I don't know who's going to win. It's been an absolute privilege to watch Kawhi versus Luka, like, just insane. Like, the Kawhi performance in Game 6, just, it was perfection, honestly. Like, it was basketball perfection on both ends. I just want to talk about, just the little point I want to talk about was the Luka fourth quarter stats. Like, to me, that's just stupid, to be honest. Like, okay, like, he already averages like 30-something points in this series, right? On great efficiency from both the field and from three. So to me, it's like, okay, would you rather him, like, he exerts so much energy, and every single thing runs through him the entire game, the first three quarters especially, right? So would you rather him score 20 points in the first three quarters, then 10 points in the fourth quarter? Like, would that make it okay? He would still average like basically the same amount of points, right? But then we wouldn't call him a choker or whatever, or all that kind of crap. Would that be okay? Because if that's what happened, then they would go into the fourth quarter down 17 every game. Like, that's realistically what would happen, right? He absolutely has to score the points he scores. He has to run the plays he runs, and he has to exert the energy he exerts in the first three quarters to even keep them competitive going into the fourth. And yes, in the fourth, obviously, he gets gassed out, and he should improve his conditioning and his stamina. I'm not saying he's blameless in this, but The style of play he's playing, everybody's like, oh, well, Harden's already showed us that you can't win like this. It's like, dude, Harden did it he wanted to play that way. He had Chris Paul. He could defer to Chris Paul at times. He had Russell Westbrook. He could defer to Russell Westbrook at times. Luka has nowhere near anybody that he can give the ball to and be like, I'm going to rest for a couple possessions. Nothing like that. Or not even rest. He doesn't have anybody he could give the ball to and be confident that guy is going to get anybody else on this team a good shot. So that to me is just nonsense. There's stuff to work on, but it's not like, oh, he's a choker. Like that guy's a fucking choker? Like, come on, man. Grow up. All right, finally, we have the predictions of the series that we actually know are going to happen. So I'm just going to run through these real quick. I got Bucks in 7 against the Nets. I got the Sixers in 5 against the Hawks. And I have the Suns in 6 against Denver. I just don't think that like CP3 and Booker versus replacement level guards, I don't see how you can beat that, to be honest. So those are my predictions for what's happening now. I can't predict what's gonna. I don't know. Like I think Utah are the favorites between whoever they play, even if it's the Clippers or the Mavs. So that's all I got right now, and I can't wait for this fucking game, man.